Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. In our last session, we saw up to the 22nd shloka. We had discussed. Swarupameva me sattvam natu dharmo navastatavat madanyasya sato bhavan nahi sajjatirishyate. Up to here we had seen in our last session. In the 17th shloka it was the example of mist was given. Tatha api abhibhati abhati kahapi esha vichara abhav. So as mist is intangible, we cannot catch it, we cannot touch it, we cannot sweep it away. We can pass through it, but we can't see it through it. But when the sun rises with the heat, with the sunshine, it clears away. Similarly, in the Chidakasha, space of consciousness, due to the ignorance, there is a mist of ignorance. So with the rise of the sun of knowledge, through inquiry, this can be cleared. This can be dispelled. So this was spoken of in the 17th shloka. This ignorance was said to be anirvachaniya. Anirvachaniya, inexplicable. It cannot be explained or described. For the simple reason that actually it doesn't exist. But we can't say it doesn't exist also, we can't say it exists also, both ways. So therefore it is called as inexplicable. But we can get rid of that. Then in the 18th shloka, it was said that Atma Jnana Mahanidra, Atma Ajnana Mahanidra, this ignorance is like a great sleep. And it's long dream, then it projects this universe with delusions like this Swarga, Narka, Moksha, Jiva, and all their Jivas, their karmas, their karma phalas, this is all projected in this huge dream, is in the great sleep. So they are part of that. And it has got the same degree of reality as this world, the dream world and the waking world. The reality is the same. And in the dream, as we use the dream objects to fulfill the dream desires, needs, so also in the waking world, we use the means of knowledge as the Vedas. So the different worlds are also spoken of in the Vedas, but they also have the same reality as this world. In the absolute truth, there are no worlds, there are no lokas. Neither is there any moksha. If ajnanta, if bondage is an illusion, then liberation from such an illusory bondage also should be an illusion. But Atma is Nitya Mukta. That has to be understood very clearly. There should be no doubt regarding that. Then, in the 19th shloka, Jada Ajada Vibhagaha Ayam Ajade Mai Kalpitaha Bhitti Bhage Same Chitre Charachara Vibhagavat. Because the doubt was that if everything is superimposed on the non-dual Brahman, then why is there the division within the superimposition of sentient and insentient? So this was cleared with an example of a colorful three-dimensional scenery of sentient and insentient is superimposed on a two-dimensional whitewashed wall or canvas. So also this division of this sentient and insentient world appears on the consciousness, which is just a superimposition. We have seen how from the insentient earth, mud is insentient, from there comes the sentient plant. Similarly, from the sentient creatures, insentient things also come out. From the sentient creature, we see insentient hair, insentient nail coming out of the sentient creature. So we have hair which we can chop off and it doesn't cause anything to us. It doesn't cause any pain. Nails also come out. They are insentient. So from the sentient, insentient comes out. From the insentient, sentient comes out. And from that same consciousness, both sentient and insentient is projected. So they are only projection alone. And these do not create any division, any dvaita, any duality there. Nor is there a dvaita of experiencer and experienced in that. Then, in the 20th verse, that is, Chaitya uparaga rupa me sakshita apina tatviki. Now this sakshihood also, if you talk of sakshi, that is witness. So witness is witnessing something. When that is said, if we are witnessing something, that means the duality comes. The witness is there and that witness is witnessing something. So duality is already there. So we are talking about this non-dual Brahman, and then how come this duality comes? The Sakshi comes. So here it is said that with these, the thoughts like Karta, Bhokta, etc., they arise in the mind, and consciousness is the illuminator of these thoughts. So with reference to these vrittis, these thoughts alone, this self is said to be a witness, a Sakshi. So, but this Sakshihood is not Tatviki. Tatviki means not absolute as such. It is only Upalakshanam. That is, the word Sakshi describes an assumption only that Atma, which is actually immutable, is an ocean of consciousness without any thought wave on that. This is the Sakshi. Satya can't be actually described in words. It is beyond any description, indescribable. It can only be indicated. So Vedas only indicate, the Vedic statements only indicated. And it is also said as Jagat Karana, though that is also in a manner of saying it is said as Jagat Karana. We can say the hot desert sand is the cause of mirage water, where the mirage water has got no existence. So similarly, of course, but it is seen for, in its own absence, it is seen there, the mirage water. Similarly, Brahman is called as the Jagat Karana. So, though it is not. When our focus shifts from Jagat to Brahman, then the Jagat disappears. Similarly, Sakshi would also, as long as the witnessing is there of the vrittis, the thoughts, then we call it as this is a Sakshi and witnessing the vrittis. When the focus shifts from the vrittis to Sakshi itself, then there are no vrittis at all. So, it is the question of shifting the focus as such. Thus, Brahman or the Atman, they are actually identical. In this one essence, there is not the slightest trace of any triad, that is the knower known knowledge or experiencer, experienced and experience, and so on. Amrutabde, in the 21st shloka, Amrutabde name jirni mrusha dindira janmabihi Spatika adre name ragah swapna sandhya bhravi bhramaihi. So here two examples was given in this. We have seen in Amrutabdehe, like in the ocean, the waters, many manifestations arise like waves, bubbles, foam, and so on, it doesn't make any difference to the water in the ocean at all. The level of the water in the ocean, it remains the same. It doesn't make any difference. It comes and goes, waves come and go, bubbles form, foam also forms in that, so all, but it doesn't make any difference. Similarly, Amruta Abdehe, in the ocean of immortality. So there is no ripples, there is no loss by the rise and fall of these false worlds and all that thing, like Nama, Rupa, Sansara, Loka, and all that thing. It doesn't make any difference in the immortal ocean of consciousness. Similarly, the other example was the crystal mountain. The crystal mountain has got no color of its own. It reflects whatever color the background is there. It will reflect the clouds in the setting sun. So that is reflected on the crystal mountain. But this crystal mountain is not, doesn't have any attachment or any color as such. It remains the same, pure as crystal. Swapna Sandhya was said. Swapna Sandhya Bhavi Bhamaihi. So it is compared to the evening clouds, but it is anasakta. There is no attachment as such of any kind. So it doesn't make any difference at all. It doesn't affect the self, as the crystal mountain is not affected by the colors of the setting sun reflected in the clouds, nor it is affected like water of the ocean is affected by the waves. The levels of the ocean remain the same. Similarly, these things do not affect the self. And we have seen that both these examples had come in Atma Bodh also. Then in the 22nd shloka, we have seen that one should not take this as a species also. That is existence, Sat Swarupa. So, Swarupa meva Sattvam natu dharma. It is not a dharma, Namaspavad. Mad anyasya satah bhavat nahi. So, this is not a jati or not a classification. It is not a species. So, because in the species there are so many varieties and so on, and Sat is not a guna, quality. We easily can identify it as some kind of a quality. No, this existence is not a quality. It is its very nature. So, it is not that Atma has Sat or existence as its quality. No, Atma is existence. It is not Atma has existence as a quality. Atma is existence. The self is existence, and it is not that self has existence as a quality. That means self is something and it has got one quality called as existence. It's not so. So it doesn't belong to a particular jati as such. And this existence is a common factor actually in all the names and forms. Remove the existence part of it, it becomes non-existent. All the names and forms of this entire existence will become non-existent. So existence is the very nature, essential nature of this Atma, the self. So, and this existence we have seen, without existence, then everything will become non-existent. The very fact that the thing exists, our very essential nature is existence. We cannot deny our own existence. The non-deniability of our own existence is the absolute truth. Now, similarly, as we have seen existence, now after the Sat, then the Chit and Ananda also will be discussed. So, about consciousness, that is Jnana. If it is said that Atman is the locus of consciousness, that is the guna of knowledge, then again, as before, the two possibilities can arise. If it is the quality of consciousness, then it will be subject to modification. If consciousness is taken as, Chit is taken as quality, then it will be subject to modification. Because that which has got a quality is a substance, is an object, and all substances are conditioned by change. And if it does not have consciousness, then it will become a Chit, inert thing. not different from a pot or a chair. So what is said here is that knowledge is. It is not that one has knowledge, one has consciousness, one has chit, but one is chit, one is consciousness, one is of the nature of knowledge, pure knowledge. Now that is said in the 23rd shloka. Swarupameva me jnanam naguna saguno yadi anatva mama swatvam anatvamatvamas swatvam vajneya ज्ञेयत्वयोपतेत स्वरूपम एव मे ज्ञानम न गुणः सगुणः यदि अनात्मत्वम असत्वम वा ज्ञेय अज्ञेयत्वयोः पतेत. So now consciousness is my swarupa and not guna. It is not that I have consciousness, it is I am consciousness. So if it were just mere guna, then this also becomes an object of knowledge. Then the self or Atma becomes an object of knowledge if it is mere guna or quality, because objects having quality is subject to modification and they are the object of knowledge also. So, and that is illumined by consciousness. If it is not illumined by consciousness, then it doesn't exist then. Then it becomes asat, non-existent, because that which is not in the purview of consciousness or awareness, then that automatically becomes non-existent. If there is no awareness of an entity, that becomes non-existent. That doesn't exist. So actually, both are not logical. Asat chit and chit asat, that is also not logical, because if it is our experience to feel I am, I am consciousness. So if Sat is without consciousness, it will become Jada. Existence without consciousness will be inert, insentient. And consciousness without existence will become non-existent. So both are not acceptable. So both are not the qualities. So the Atma is existence itself and consciousness itself. So both together. It is not that two separate things. Atma itself is existence and consciousness. It is not that Atma has existence and consciousness, but Atma itself is existence and consciousness. We do not ever feel that awareness of being existence is always there. This non-deniability of our own existence, of our constant awareness of I-ness, I exist, that itself is the absolute truth, which even an atheist cannot deny. So I am neither Jada, neither inert nor non-existent. I am Sat Chit. I am existence as well as consciousness. I am Sat Chit. So that which is Sat is Chit, that which is Chit is Sat. That which is existence is consciousness. That which is consciousness is existence. One cannot be without the other. That is, one is not the quality of the other. That which is existence itself is consciousness. That which is consciousness itself is existence. They are not two separate entities as such. So I don't have consciousness as guna, but I am this consciousness. Now, Sat and Chit we have dealt with. Now we come to the third part, Ananda part. Now coming to the subject of this bliss, Ananda, is Atman the locus of bliss, Sukha, or is it not? The answer here again is that bliss or Ananda is not one's quality, but that one is of the nature of bliss, Ananda. So this 24th verse speaks of this, explains self as bliss. What is that? Ahameva sukham nanya anya chenaiva tat sukham amadartham nahi preyah Madartam na swatah priyam. Aham eva sukham na anyat anyat cha anyat chet eva na eva tat sukham. Amadartam nahi preyah madartam na swatah priyam. Now, I am of the nature of bliss. How am I the nature of bliss? Let us go into the discussion with this. I am of the nature of bliss. How am I the nature of bliss? Now, the things in this world can be divided into four categories. One is that we dislike, upeksha, dveshya, one which we dislike, we hate, we abhor. One category. So what are the things that include in this category where the things are things and beings we dislike, we abhor, we hate. All those things that cause us pain, misery or sorrow, things and beings, we dislike, we abhor, we hate. Now, that which falls under the category of this dislike, dveshya, that for sure cannot be bliss. That cannot be sukham, that cannot be anandam. So that is out, that category is out. Now, the next category is upeksha. Upeksha means being indifferent. Now, in this category called indifferent, includes all those things and beings which we are indifferent to. What are the things and beings we are indifferent to? The things and beings we are indifferent to are those from whom we do not derive any kind of joy or happiness or pleasure, nor any sorrows, miseries or pain. So there is neither happiness or misery, nor joy or sorrow, nor pleasure or pain out of these things and beings. So we have an attitude of indifference or upeksha, udasin bhava towards that. So that category also cannot be called as bliss. So that is also out. Now what remains is priya. Now there are certainly things and beings that are dear to us. Now, what are the things and beings that are dear to us? So when we analyze the things and beings that are dear to us, all those things and beings through which we derive some kind of joy, pleasure or happiness are dear to us. Isn't it? So, priya, they are called as priya. And it is not that any objects are there, things and beings are there. So they may have pleasure, joy or happiness, but if it is not meant for us, it will not be dear to us. An object may give pleasure, joy or happiness to one person. It is not necessary that the same object can give pleasure to me. So it may be dear to someone, but it may not be dear to me. It may be giving pleasure to someone, it may not give pleasure to me. So that there may be people for whom that object may be dear, it may not be dear to me. So first thing is that among the objects that are dear to people, all are not necessarily dear to me. Only those things and beings which appear to give me some kind of joy, pleasure or happiness have to be dear to me. So there has to be that category. Now, this priya, in this category again, many things and beings come in that. Our spouses, our family, our home, our pets, our car, money, and so many things are there. Objects and objects of indulgences and things like that which appear to give us some kind of joy, pleasure or happiness, they all fall under this category, priya. Now, all that which falls under the category called priya, can we call it bliss? Satchidananda, that bliss part of this Brahman or Atma Tattva, can we call that as bliss? Now again we'll have to analyze that. Now, all the external objects which we think give us pleasure, joy, happiness, and so on, can it be categorized as bliss? We cannot categorize that as bliss. Why? There is a reason. The reason is what? The reason is that all these objects that which appear to give us some kind of joy, pleasure, or happiness, they are subject to modification. They are subject to change. They don't remain the same at all times. They keep on changing. They keep on changing their nature. something which may give us joy today may not give us joy tomorrow, or the quantum of joy may reduce tomorrow, or the happiness or pleasure that we derive out of it, it will reduce tomorrow. And then if we buy a new car and then we are very happy with the car, it is giving us good service and all that thing, after some years then it starts giving problem to us. So when we buy a new car, it is very dear to us, but of course the modification and changes will go in that car, then it starts giving trouble because there is a lot of maintenance problem, it is consuming a lot of fuel, then we want to get rid of it. So at one time it was dear, now it is no more dear. So these things and beings, they keep on changing, subject to modification. So these things and beings also cannot be called as dear, as bliss. They may be dear for some time, but it cannot be called, categorized as bliss, as the part of Satchidananda. It can't be called as bliss. They keep on changing, subject to modification and so on. So they may give pleasure at one time and then it will be a cause of our happiness, sorrow, misery or pain, and therefore we begin to dislike that. Now, unlike these, that is Dvesha, Upeksha and Priya, unlike these three, bliss is not dear because of something. Because of something, it is not dear bliss. Bliss is, it is of this nature itself. Therefore, of these four things, that which we dislike, that is Dvesha, Upeksha being indifferent, Priya, that is dear, and Atma, of the four, only Atma is of the nature of bliss. The self alone is the nature that can be called as bliss. Now, second reason that we can give why Atma is of the nature of bliss is that bliss is not the nature of the object. So if bliss is not of the nature of object, if we analyze the object, is there inherent joy, pleasure or happiness in the object? We will come to the conclusion with thorough analysis that no object or being in this entire existence has got bliss in it. It is only a mental projection that projects or imagines bliss in that object. Actually, there is no bliss in that. And this, of course, we have seen many times in examples like that. Because if there is an inherent joy, pleasure, or happiness in any things or beings of this world, then we should be able to derive that joy, pleasure, or happiness from that object at all times, in all situations, for all people, in equal amount, in equal degree, at all times, in all places. But that is not the case. An object which can give pleasure to one plus person can be, another person will be udasin or upeksha or indifferent to that object, and a third person will actually dislike the object because of the miseries or sorrow that that object is causing. So one object and three different experiences. Or one object, even if it appears to give pleasure, the quantum or the degree of pleasure may vary from person to person. Moreover, the same object will not give pleasure or happiness at all times. So one object which gives pleasure in the morning may not give pleasure at 2 o'clock in the morning, in the night. It will not give. It will be a cause of annoyance also. Then the same object which gives pleasures at best of the times during the day, it will not give the pleasure when a tragedy happens. A situation changes, the same object doesn't give pleasure. So, and the same object will not give pleasure if the place changes. Somebody enjoys ice cream, but somebody will not enjoy ice cream in a place at an altitude of 20,000 feet altitude with minus 30 degrees Celsius temperature. He will not enjoy that ice cream. Then you would rather have something hot to have. You see, so the place changes and the object will become, there will be no more joy derived from that object. So similarly, the places change, the times change, all these things keeps on changing. And the same object at different time, in different situation, in different places, for different people, it will keep on giving different degrees of pleasure or joy. So these objects, they cannot have joy. So if the objects do not have an inherent joy, pleasure or happiness in that, then what remains is subject. So where should that bliss be? If we experience happiness sometimes. If it is not there in the object, it has to come from somewhere. So it is the bliss of our own nature, which is projected on that object. We imagine that it is coming from the object. The classic example that comes in our Vedic scriptures is of the dog, which is chewing on the bone and which has got sharp edges and which forms some injuries inside the mouth. And then from the injuries, the blood oozes out and he's sucking on that blood and he thinks that he's getting the juice from the bone. So it is coming from within us and we project it on the object outside and we think that it is coming from that object. So this is how things are. So actually, if you look at it, it doesn't belong to the object, it belongs to the subject alone. So all the external objects, if you analyze thoroughly, there is no joy, pleasure, or happiness at all, and therefore they cannot be categorized as bliss. People change places also. We cannot have any kind of permanent happiness, joy, or pleasure in place, in time. If people seek pleasure or happiness in time, time do not have. Some people, they consult their horoscope and they say that my Sade Sati is going on, or Shani Dasha is going on, and therefore I'm suffering. And once this period will get over after a year's time, then my happy times are coming. So seeking happiness in time, it has to be here and now. Otherwise, the time remains the same. Time cannot give happiness or joy or misery or so on. So it has to come from within. Time remains the same for all. Some seek in places. They want to change places. They cannot derive this place is miserable. I want to change place. I want to go to a good place, beautiful place, calm and peaceful, pollution free and all that thing. But if our mind is miserable, even in the best of places will be miserable. We cannot simply run away from our own mind. So whether a place is dirty or polluted, if our mind is calm and peaceful, we will be happy there. And in pristine purity, places where there is pollution free, beautiful nature is there and everything is there, but if our mind is not peaceful, it is miserable, even in such place we'll be miserable. We'll be sitting in that pristine purified atmosphere and yet be miserable. And there's such people, even if they go to heaven also, they'll be miserable, they'll make others also miserable. And if our mind is at peace and cheerful and happy, even if we are sitting in hell also, we'll be happy. Whether others are happy or not, it doesn't matter. So by changing places, so places do not, not time, nor object, nor people, nothing in the external world has got happiness. So anything outside the self doesn't have happiness, then bliss should be our own swarupa. So this one has to understand very clearly. And because of ignorance, we keep chasing happiness for millions of lives together. I'll be happy with this, I'll be happy with that, I should do this, I should do that. And maybe I have not tried this, therefore I didn't get happiness. Once I try this, I may get some happiness out of that. How long it will last, so-called happiness? And where has it come from? The analysis has to go on. So if bliss doesn't belong to the object, it has to belong to the subject, the self. Then if we assume that, okay, our swarupa is not bliss, then what is our swarupa? Our swarupa is dukkhamaya. If you assume that our swarupa is miserable, our nature is miserable or sorrowful or painful is our nature itself, then what will happen is that we will not get rid of any misery, sorrow or pain that comes in our life. If being miserable is our nature, is our essential nature, because it has been seen in nature that all things abide, tend to rest, be established, they rest in their own nature. So if our nature is being miserable, then we'll not get rid of that. That misery will not be a burden to us at all. That sorrow, misery or pain will not be a burden to us at all. But the fact is contrary. We cannot tolerate even slightest misery, sorrow or pain in our life. The moment even slightest sorrow comes, you want to get rid of that immediately. Like our eyes are very sensitive organ. It is always wet. It has to be kept wet. So dehydration also causes problem to that. It has to be kept wet. even a minute foreign particle, if it falls on the eyeball, immediately the tears will come to get rid of that. It cannot tolerate even a minute foreign particle. Same thing is, our Swarupa is bliss. We are bliss. It is not that I am having bliss or I am having quality of bliss. I am enjoying something. No, I am a blissful nature. And because I am a blissful nature, in ignorance we are not aware of it, and therefore we cannot tolerate. Simply we cannot tolerate even slightest misery, sorrow or pain in our life. Because that is against, absolutely against our nature. Even the notion of death is against our nature. We cannot tolerate the notion of death. People say one day I will die, but I don't want to die. Why is it abhorrent to us? Why we do not like the very notion of death? Because we do not have death at all. And when somebody says that you will go out of existence, one day you will go out of existence, that is unacceptable to our subconscious mind, to ourselves. Because that there was no time when we didn't exist, there will be no time when we will cease to exist. That is unacceptable. So that is our very nature. Existence is our very nature. So we cannot tolerate. So being asat, sat is our nature. We cannot tolerate being asat. Chit is our nature. We cannot tolerate being achit. Pure awareness. There is no time when we are not unaware, that we become insentient or I was not aware, or that knowledge, that consciousness is not there. There is no time. The consciousness is very much always there. Similarly, this blissful self, our very nature is a blissful self, and therefore that is the very reason why we cannot tolerate any misery, sorrow or pain. And it is not there in the external world, it is our very nature. If we experience something and we derive some joy out of it, it has to come from within us. So we are of the nature of that blissful self. Then we cannot be this dukkha swarupa. Then another proof that we are of the nature of bliss. What is the proof? The proof is that our deep sleep state. When you look at our deep sleep state, in our deep sleep state, we are not aware of anything. Ego is in its seed form, unmanifest in the seed form. The subtle body and gross body is not available for our experience. Mind and intellect is not active at that time. And yet, when we wake up from the deep sleep state, we say, I didn't know anything, I enjoyed it. Now, ordinarily, a person who is not into spirituality and all that thing, his or her notion of happiness is what? Enjoying something which he or she likes very much. Oh, I enjoyed this very much, or something like that. Now, a person wakes up from the sleep and says that I didn't know anything, but I enjoyed it, without indulging in any objects of this world. Without indulging in any objects of this world, that person says that I enjoyed it very much. I didn't know anything, but I enjoyed it very much. So if you ask, what did you enjoy? Did you enjoy something delicious, something fragrant, something beautiful? Nothing. I had absolutely no knowledge of anything, but I enjoyed it. So that is where we get a glimpse of our absolute pure self, which is of the nature of bliss. So slight that Paramananda, that blissful nature, we get a glimpse of that in our deep sleep state. That is the proof that our nature is of infinite bliss. Without the need for any external object, we are happy. So that is our nature. Then this Satchidananda. So our Swarupa is Satchidananda. Without Sat, then Chit will become non-existent and bliss will also become non-existent. Without Chit, then Sat will become Jada, that is inert, and bliss will be also inert. And then without bliss, then that Sat and Chit will not have. So these are the three. That which is Sat and Chit, that which is Chit is Sat, and that which is Sat and Chit itself is bliss, infinite bliss. So existence, knowledge and bliss. That which is existence is knowledge or consciousness. That which is consciousness is existence, and that which is existence and consciousness is of the nature of bliss. and that too infinite bliss. It has to be infinite. There is no limitation of time, space, or possession or object or anything like that. We don't need an object to indulge. And therefore, this notion of Swarga, where one person goes and enjoys the objects of the Swarga, that cannot be the ultimate state. The ultimate state is abiding in our own self, because there also the Dvaita is there. As long as that Dvaita is there and you are dependent on external object, that is a temporary thing. When the visa is over, money is over, Shine Punya Martyaloke Nivartante. So that is a temporary abode, and Swarga as a temporary abode is spoken of only in Sanatana Dharma, not in any other religion. For other religion, Swarga is a permanent abode. Now, having said that, then it may be said that the scriptures advise that Brahman is to be seen as one, whereas here there are three, namely Satchidananda. Now this is clarified in the 25th shloka. Nahi nana swarupam syat ekam vastu kadachana tasmada khanda evasmi bijah jagatim bhidam nahi nana swarupam syad ekam vastu kadachana tasmat akhanda eva asmi bijahat jagatim bhidam. Now, nahi nana swarupam. There are no different swarupas. Syad ekam vastu kadachana. That which is one, yourself, it cannot have different forms and names and all that thing. If nama rupa, names and forms of ornaments are dropped, what remains is gold. This is understood. Even with the name and form of the ornaments, with the name and form of the ornament, it is again gold alone. Without the name and form, it is gold. With the name and form also, it is gold alone. So also this Satchidananda is one. They are not the three different things, qualities. So I am neither Jad Sat. I am not inert existence, nor I am non-existent consciousness. Asat Chit. I am not inert existence. I am conscious existence. So Jada Sat, I am not Jada Sat. I am Sat Chit. Nor am I this Asat Chit, that is non-existent consciousness. So because existence without consciousness will become inert, consciousness without existence will become non-existent. So I am neither this, neither I am Jad Sat, nor if the Chit is taken as apart from, different from, apart from, other than this existence, then it will become inert. And if Chit is separate from Sat, that is existent, then it will become non-existent. So I am neither that Asat Chit also. So again, if Sat, that is existence, is different from infinite, then what will happen? That Sat or that existence will become finite. And if that infinite is other than existence, then that infinite will become non-existent. You see? So Sat, Chit, and this infinite, Ananta. So, similarly, if infinite is different from Chit, that is consciousness, then the infinite will become inert. And if consciousness is different from infinite, then consciousness will become finite, limited to something in time and space. So that is also not possible. So Chit cannot be different from this infinite Ananta Swarupa. Therefore, Sat and Chit and Ananta, they are all three are one. They cannot be separate. And that which is Sat, Chit, Ananta, that is existence absolute, consciousness absolute, and infinite absolute, that is of the nature of bliss. That itself is bliss. So Sat, Chit, Ananta, Ananda. So they are not four things. That I am Sat, I am existence, I am consciousness, I am infinite, I am blissful. So I am of the nature of infinite, pure, blissful, infinite awareness. So that is what it is. Now the question arises, why call it as Satchidananda? If it is all one, something like that, why call it Satchidananda? The thing is that this Sat, Chit and Ananda, they predominantly are revealed. Like for example, there are, according to the Upadhis, we have this Upadhi of gross physical body, Stula Sharira or Annamaya Kosha. Then we have the Sukshma Sharira, and then we have the Karan Sharira, causal body. So the Sat aspect is predominantly revealed in the Stula Sharira, the gross body. The Chit aspect is predominantly revealed in the Sukshma Sharira, the subtle body, and the Ananda aspect is predominantly revealed in the Karana Sharira, the causal body. Causal body is the deep sleep state, Anandamaya Kosha. That is where we experience the bliss without indulging in any object. So that is predominantly revealed in the causal body. And therefore this Satchidananda, the name is given according to the gross, subtle and the causal body. These three upadhis. If these three upadhis are ignored, then what remains is one homogeneous mass of infinite blissful awareness. That's all. That is our Swarupa. Now, having said this, Shruti reveals the identity between Brahman and Jiva in the Mahavakya Tattvamasi, that thou art. How this apparently contradictory statement reveals the identity is discussed in the next verse, that is the 26th verse. Now, Tattvamasi. If you look at the word meaning Tattvamasi, Tat is indicating the Brahman, Tvam is indicating the Jiva, and both one is the absolute truth and the other one is limited in all that thing. How can these two be one? So it is a contradictory statement. Now this is taken for discussion. How these two can be one? That Jiva alone is Brahma. Absolutely. So in the 26th shloka it is said, Parokshata paricheda shabalyapoha nirmalam tadasiti gira lakshyam ahamekarasam maha. Parokshata paricheda shabalya apoha nirmalam tad asi iti gira lakshyam aham ekarasam maha. So now here parokshata is the remoteness, the otherness, or something which is far away, something which is yonder. Paricheda is the limitations. Shabalya apoha nirmalam. Nirmalam is the pure self. So the conditioning, when these conditionings are eliminated, now what remains is the great pure consciousness. Now tad asi iti, that is Tattvamasi. Now tat is Brahman here in association with the total conditioning or upadhi or conditioning called as macrocosm, totality, named as Ishvara. So the totality is named as Ishvara, macrocosm is named as Ishvara. This Brahman in association with the total conditioning called Ishvara. Ishvara is Sarvajna and Sarvashaktiman, omnipotent and all-knowing, omniscient, omnipotent and omnipresent also. So that is taken as Paroksha, because as a Jiva, when you look at Ishvara, he is Sarvajna, Sarvashaktiman, Sarvavyapi, so something yonder, something great, something yonder. That is Poroksha. Now, that is far away. Now, Tvampada is this Brahman in association with microcosm. That is the individual Upadhi conditioning called as Jiva. When it is in association with the individual conditioning called as Jiva, then this Upadhi, microcosm, then it feels that I am finite and limited by space and time and power also. My power is limited, my time is limited, I'm limited by space, I'm limited to my form alone, and I'm limited by knowledge also, Alpajna also, Alpajna, Alpashaktiman, Alpavyapi, limited, I'm not all pervading, I'm pervading through the body alone, my knowledge is limited, my power is also limited, so and so on. So there is a feeling of parichinnata, limitations. So the word meaning, if you look at it, then it is of course contradictory. Tattvamasi, then it becomes contradictory. From Tattvamasi Mahavakya, when the remoteness, that is Parokshatva, that remoteness, if that is removed, that is the Ishvara and its conditionings are removed, and the limitation, the Parokshatva of the Ishvara, the remoteness of the conditioning called as Ishvara is removed, and the limitations of the conditioning out of the Jiva is removed, then what remains is the same Brahman. You see? So, transcending the Upadhis, Ishwar's Upadhi, the Maya Shakti, and Jiva's Upadhi, the Ajnanta, the ignorance, because of which it feels finite, limited, and the Maya Shakti's Upadhi is the Sarvavyapi, Sarvashaktiman, and Sarvajna, that is the Maya's Upadhi. When these Upadhis are removed, and then what remains is one Brahman. Only the Upadhi of Maya and Upadhi of Avidya is Jiva and Ishvara separated from Brahman. Otherwise, it is Brahman alone which appears as Ishvara with the Samashti Upadhi, microcosm, the conditioning of microcosm. And the same Brahman appears as Jiva with the conditioning of microcosm. So, there is realization of Bodha when you transcend the Upadhis or the conditionings of the Jiva, that unconditioned Brahma or the absolute self. So, Parokshata Paricheda Shabalya Poha Nirmalam Tad Asi Iti Gira Lakshyam Aham Ekarasam Mahaha. Mahaha is the light of consciousness, the great light of consciousness without any limitations of time, space, or position or objects. So, having said this, now up to here was the Mananam. Constant reflection as indicated from verse 2, verse 2 to 26, removes all doubts about the nature of truth. The habitual false notions of limitations are to be eliminated by contemplation. The sadhana thus culminates in self-realization. And now, the unique experience of a man of realization is described in the next verse, that is Shlok 27. Now, Shlok 27 is not a Shlok for discussion but for meditation. What is that Shloka? Shlok 27. Upashanta Jagat Jiva Shishyacharyeshwara Brahmam Swata Siddham Nadyantam Paripurnam Aham Maha. Upashanta Jagat Jiva Shishya Acharya Ishwara Brahmam Swata Siddham Anadi Antam Paripurnam Aham Maha. Now, Aham Paripurna. Now, this is the meditation shloka. Aham Paripurna. I am Paripurna means full, Paripurna. Nothing can be added to the infinite, nor anything can be removed from infinite. Infinite minus 1 or infinite minus plus is meaningless. In that infinite Paripurna, there cannot be any desire whatsoever for anything. Paripurna. And actually, in our everyday experience also, a desireless state of mind is the cause of happiness. As long as there is a desire, we are troubled by that desire, we are restless because of that desire. Until we fulfill that desire, we are restless. When we fulfill it, for some time we become desireless, and that for some time we are happy. As long as the mind remains desireless, we are happy. As soon as a new desire comes, we become restless, and again we get into karma and so on. So Paripurna, that entity will have no desire whatsoever. Our desire is what? To be happy only. Isn't it? Everything that we want to possess something, it is for happiness only. To go here, to go there, to possess that, or that is only for happiness. When you are paripurna, when you are bliss, you are in the infinite blissful state. There is no desire whatsoever anymore left. So paripurna. Now, important thing is that in this paripurna, a God which is infinite and paripurna cannot have a desire to create. A desire to create is a sign of apurnata. Therefore, only Vedanta says that it is an appearance. It is not in reality. So, God, which is of the infinite nature, cannot even have this desire, which is paripurna. It cannot have a desire to create also. If a creation appears, then it is a superimposition, not in reality. So, paripurna. Paripurna, there is beyond the limitations of space, time, and causation and objects, paripurna. In such a paripurna entity, there will be no desires whatsoever at all. Desire is a product of the mind only. When in the paripurna state, in the pure self, there is no question of any subtle body called this mind, intellect, equipment at all. It has to be desireless. There is no desire. So, aham paripurna, beyond the limitations. Then, aham swata siddham. Swata siddham. I am self-evident, like the sun. So, I am self-evident. Sun doesn't need another source of light to illuminate. Sun itself is of the nature of illumination. It doesn't need another light to illuminate. So, it is of the nature of illumination. Similarly, I am self-evident. I don't need any other means of knowledge to know, because for the simple reason I am not an object of knowledge. I illumine everything else. If anything is illumining, sun is illumining this world, the sun also draws the illumination from me alone. The power of illumining the world, the universe, the sun also draws from me. Anything that is illuminating anything, that illumination also comes from me alone. There is only one source of knowledge. And this I, the pure self, cannot be illumined by anything. It is not an object of knowledge. There is no other means to know this self. Self is known by its own self. So, swata siddham. So, nothing can illuminate. Then, anadyam, antam. So, beginningless and eternal. There is no end also. There is no beginning and no end also. Beginningless and eternal. So that means there is no birth and death. I am the witness. I am the illuminator of the modifications called as birth, death, and in-between stages also. So I am beginningless and eternal. There is no birth for me. There is no death for me. And therefore, in between the modification stage is also not there. But I am an illuminator of all the modifications. I am myself not subject to any modification. I am the substratum of all. I am the immutable substratum of everything else. So, aham paripurna, aham swata siddham, aham anadyantam, and then now, upashantam jagad jiva shishya acharya ishwara brahmam. Now, sadhaka, a seeker, begins his journey from the stage of Dvaita. In duality, he begins his journey. He starts questioning his own existence. He starts questioning the world around him. And he begins in duality. He approaches an acharya, a teacher, a sadguru, and there also there is Advaita is there. And then of course he worships, propitiates his Ishtadevta, his favorite deity, a presiding deity. He worships. There is also Advaita Bhavana is there. And all these things he does in his spiritual path. And as and when this knowledge starts maturing in him, with the realization of the self in the light of consciousness, in the great light of consciousness, Maham, in the great light of consciousness, all dualities disappear. What are these dualities? Dualities like Jagat, Jiva Jagata Ishvara. Jiva, the individual self, Jagat, the world, Ishvara, the total self, the Lord, Ishvara. Then Shishya and Acharya, the disciple and the teacher. All these dualities, they disappear. In fact, Jiva, Jagata, Ishvara, they exist together and they disappear together. They don't have an independent existence apart from each other. They have to exist together, they have to disappear together, because one without the other has got no meaning. Jiva and Jagat without Ishvara has got no meaning. Ishvara and Jagat without Jiva has also got no meaning. Ishvara and Jiva without Jagat has also got no meaning. They exist together, they disappear together. And then in the realization, there is no Jiva, the Shishya and Acharya also, that difference also disappears. It is only the difference of name and form. Tattvataha, they are again one in the realization of the self. So this verse is meant for meditation and not for discussion. So you see, Upashanta, Jagat, Jiva, Shishya, Acharya, Ishvara, Brahmam. This thing has come in Vivek Chudamani also. Vivek Chudamani Shlok 254 to 263 is especially good for meditation. Those 10 shlokas are there. It begins in 254th shloka. It begins with Jati Niti Kula Dosha Duragam Nama Rupa Guna Dosha Varjitam. Jati Niti Kula Duragam Nama Rupa Guna Dosha Varjitam Deshakala Vishayati Vartiyat Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani. So here also Jati Niti Kula Gotra Duragam. Jati Niti Kula Gotra Duragam Nama Rupa Dosha Varjitam. Nama Rupa Guna Dosha, that is Varjitam. Deshakala Vishayati Vartiyat. So Deshakala Vishaya, they are also gone. Beyond that, Brahma Tattvamasi Bhavayatmani. So all these Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra, they have got no meaning in the absolute self. Therefore, you see, the realized masters, that they didn't have any kind of discrimination with anyone whatsoever on the basis of Jati, Niti, Kula, Gotra, and Guna, Dosha, and all that thing. Whether somebody is sinner or a punyavan or things like that, they have absolutely no difference at all. They no prejudice at all. They accepted everyone as they are because they saw their own self and nothing else. So beyond the Nama Rupa, their focus was only on Asti Bhati Priya, Satchidananda, existence, consciousness, bliss, which is of the nature of everything and being that we see around us. Now we come to the concluding shloka. In the concluding shloka, the poet says, 28th shloka, Lakshmi Dhara Kave Sukti Sharadam Bhoja Samrutah Advaita Makarandoyam Vidvad Dhungai Nipiyatam. Lakshmi Dhara Kavehe Sukti Sharad Amboja Samrutah Advaita Makarandah Ayam Vidvat Bhrungaihi Nipiyatam. Now Lakshmidhar Kavi. This is the last shloka and the poet is inviting everybody, to everyone, this is an invitation to enjoy this Advaita Makaranda, this nectar of non-dual reality. Advaita. Advaita eva, eva Brahma, and Brahma of the self is Makaranda. So Advaita is Brahma and Brahma is the Makaranda. The Brahma of the self is the Makaranda, that is the nectar. So we have seen in the beginning of the chapter that a flower, different people enjoy flower in a different way. They admire, some people admire flower from the far. Some people enjoy the fragrance. Some people touch it, feel the petals. Some people admire the design, color and form and all that thing. Very few. Now here, Vidvat Bhrungaihi Nipiyata. So the wise, like the honeybees, they go deeper into this flower and bring out the nectar and enjoy the nectar of that, the wise. So we have to be wise like the honeybee, which goes deeper into that instead of enjoying or admiring superficially, get to the core, to the essence of that and enjoy that. So the first shloka is Mangal shloka and the second to 25th shloka is the Manana shloka. Then 26th is for the meditation. The 27th shloka is meditation. 26th is actually the Nirupan of Tattvamasi. So this way we conclude the Shravana sadhana of Advaita Makaranda. Now begins our Manana sadhana, Manana and Nididhyasa. So today we have to begin our Manana sadhana and Nididhyasana sadhana of Advaita Makaranda. So I'll begin with the first shloka. Kataksha Kirana Chanta Naman Mohabdhaye Namaha Anantananda Krishnaya Jagan Mangalamurtaye. So thus begins our Manana sadhana, Nididhyasana, on this beautiful text called Advaita Makaranda, the nectar of non-duality. Now, whatever portion that we have covered today, if anybody has got any questions, they can ask. And after that, you have to continue with your Manana and Nididhyasana on this. And then we can meet on the 15th of Jan for the test on Advaita Makaranda.
Any question from anybody? Asha, Hemaben? Padmini, you have any question?
Swamiji, I have one question.
No.
Yeah, please ask.
When we started Advaita Makaranda, we had developed some beliefs from the previous book that we had gone through. All those beliefs were later on just, bursted and blasted away, and we came to this. Okay. My query is nothing contained in this book right now, but my query is this also going to be blasted out by something else?
This is the final.
Oh my God.
Actually, in Atma Bodha also, as well as in Drishya Vivek also, same things were discussed, but in a different way. In a different way. And coming text also, the same things will be discussed in a different way. Even in Mandukya Upanishad also, same things will be discussed. There also in a different way, the same thing will be said. There in the Mandukya Upanishad, only people get shocked. But that has already been discussed. What will be told in Mandukya Upanishad has already come in Vivek Chudamani also, in Brahmabindu Upanishad or Atmabindu Upanishad also it has come. So the same thing will be discussed there also. Na nirodho, na cha utpatti, all these things will come there. It has already been discussed. So nothing will come as a surprise. But
So
only thing is that as we go to a higher and higher text, a subtler text, our understanding changes, you see, because of the previous study and understanding. Because why it changes, it is not because suddenly we have become very intelligent. We are also evolving. Right? Today you have heard Advaita Makaranda. Maybe if you have heard this Advaita Makaranda for the first time today, you have completed it. After 3 years down the line, you hear this Advaita Makaranda again. The knowledge you will get from that will be very much higher and subtler than what we have
more
gained
profound.
today. Yeah, more profound it will be, because every moment we are also evolving. Spiritually also we are evolving. Our understanding is much better. What it was 3 years before and what it is today, and what will be 3 years hence now.
True.
Swamiji, particularly for shlok number 27, salute to Lakshmidhara Swamiji and to you, Swamiji. Nothing is left to cover now onwards, it seems, Swamiji.
But
all the differences are eliminated now.
Yes, of course, that is there.
Yeah. Now, secondly,
may I interrupt here?
Yeah. Go ahead.
It is eliminated to the limit that we start going deep into its sadhana. If that sadhana deepness doesn't go ahead, this queries and will keep cropping up again and again. Am I right, Swamiji?
See, the thing is that our what you call that, our doubts, what we have heard now, that has been eliminated. To what extent?
Exactly.
You see, because it has to manifest in our day-to-day practical life. Okay, so when we are continuously reflecting, contemplating on this continuously, then it will happen. We have read it, we have admired it. It is a very great shloka. We have admired it, and we have some understanding about it also, because it is not something hocus pocus. This can be logically derived, rationally derived at, scientifically arrived at, and all that thing is that. So we appreciate it, no doubt about that. But we have to convert it into our aparoksha bodha. This is now paroksha jnana. We have to convert it into aparoksha bodha. That is an important matter. You see, converting paroksha jnana into aparoksha bodha takes longer time, where the obstacles come. So this elimination of these obstacles may be of different form. Some we have brought from a past life. Obstacles in the form of the sanskaras that we have brought, the vasanas that we have brought from the past life, some karmic bondage that we have brought from the past life. These are there. And as long as those obstacles are not cleared, we have to keep our mind occupied with different texts. Therefore, we have got so many texts in Sanatana Dharma. That is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma, you see.
Right.
Unlike in other the religion, now in other religion, one book is there. After that, what? Yeah, this is what it is. But a disciple who comes to a Sadguru, there are different forms of disciple. Jidnyasu, Sadhaka, Adam Adhikari, Madhyam Adhikari, Uttam Adhikari, Ati Uttam Adhikari, and that Sadguru has to keep all of them entertained, you see. So, Ati Uttam Adhikari, one Mahavakya and he'll go away. Uttam Adhikari, one Mandukya Upanishad and he'll go away. He'll not keep waiting. But that Adam Adhikari is there, Sadhaka is there, Jidnyasu is there. For him, he'll have to entertain them with 108 Upanishad.
Right.
They have to occupy their mind until their mind becomes purified, their sanskaras goes away, their vasanas goes away, they are ready for that absolute truth, and then it will dawn. By the time they finish their 108 Upanishad. You see? Right. So it is only time pass until then. Truth is one only. That one vakya is set Tattvamasi and Aham Brahmasi. Finish. That is over. That knowledge imparting is over. But then for the Jidnyasu, Sadhaka and Adhamadhikari, it is not easy. So then they have to be after one text, then the next text, and the next text, and the next text, and then continuous mananam and contemplation is going on, this churning is going on. And then meanwhile, he's engaged, the Acharya engages him in karma also, so that for antakaran shuddhi. And when both things are going on together, one find it will dawn on him. Oh, it was said in the beginning itself, but I didn't realize it. It took so long. Why? Because the obstacles were there. Otherwise, the realization should happen just in a moment. That's it.
Exactly.
Swamiji?
Yes.
very often you said that there are only two paths, bhakti and jnana.
Mhm.
Now we are doing this path of inquiry, that is jnana marga.
Mhm.
Now conceptually,
Mhm.
we have realized uh, where we stand and where we have to go.
Right.
Now on the path of bhakti,
Mhm.
how the process takes place. This is an intellectual understanding in the Jnana Marg, and we come to the at the summit.
Mhm.
In Bhakti Marg, how can a bhakta reaches the summit?
In Bhakti Marga, our bhakti should reach the state of parakashtha, parabhakti. When a bhakta starts his journey and a sadhaka of Jnana Yoga starts his journey, both start from Dvaita only
Hmm,
and both end in Advaita.
hmm,
Okay? A bhakta has Dvaita between him and his Lord.
hmm,
A Jnana Yoga sadhaka has got Dvaita between him and his teacher, his Guru. So,
hmm,
Guru Shishya Dvaita is there here, Bhakta and Bhagwan Dvaita is there. They both begin their journey. As the bhakti advances and reaches the Parabhakti level, Parakashta level, where the Bhakta and the object of devotion, his Lord, become one.
hmm,
Then the non-dual reality is realized. You see?
hmm,
But the classic example is that of Tukaram Maharaj of Maharashtra, great saint of Bhakti Marga. He started with Dvaita only, great Bhakta of Lord Vithala, and when his Bhakti reached the Parakashta level, the Bhakta became one with the object of devotion is Lord Vithala, and there itself he had the realization of Advaita Siddhanta. And therefore, the Abhangas that he had been writing all his life, the Abhangas that he wrote at the end part of his life, they are all on Advaita. How can a Bhakta become an Advaita Vedantin?
hmm,
So a Bhakta becomes a Jnani, and the Sadhaka of Jnana Yoga, when he proceeds and he realizes the self, he realizes his own self in all, and he becomes Bhakta. Then he has got pure unconditional love for the entire existence. So he becomes a Bhakta. And therefore, this Bhakta, Bhakti Marga and Jnana Marga, they are basically one only. They ultimately reach at one point. The Jnani becomes Bhakta, Bhakta becomes Jnani, and both have the darshan of Advaita, non-dual reality. So
hmm,
this is what it is. So the process of Bhakti Marga is slowly becoming one with the Lord. Like Mirabai became one with the Lord, uh, Tukaram Maharaj became one with the Lord, and they had
hmm,
the non-dual reality, realization of the non-dual self, and their writings. Tukaram Maharaj, especially his writings, his Abhanga shows the end part of his life. The Abhangas are all on Advaita. So this is how the Bhakti Marga and the Jnana Marga progresses. In Bhakti, it takes slowly, and Bhakti, it is all without Shraddha and Prema, there cannot be any Bhakti. There has to be Shraddha and Paripurna, unconditional love.
hmm,
So that is the only way a Bhakta proceeds. A Bhakta has got nothing else, only Paripurna Shraddha and unconditional love. These are the only two requirements for a Bhakta. For a Jnana Yogi, Sadhan Chatushta is required. Vivek, Vairagya, Sadhan, Samadhi, Shat, Sampatti and Mumukshitvam. For a Bhakta, Shraddha and Prema, they are the two requirements for an Adhikari of Bhakta. For Bhakti also, generally it is said that Bhakti Marga, everybody is an Adhikari. No. Who is the Adhikari? The one who has got Shraddha and Prema, he is the Adhikari of Bhakti. And the one who has got Sadhan Chatushta is the Adhikari of Jnana Yoga. So the Shraddha and Prema has to, without Shraddha and Prema, what Bhakti can be there? Then it is only empty things. So the Shraddha and Prema has to be there. Paripurna Prema, unconditional love. And Shraddha means total surrender. When total surrender is there, there is no trace of any worry. What is the proof that we are totally surrendered at the feet of our Lord? The only proof is that there is no trace of worry in any corner of our mind. That is the proof that I am totally surrendered at the feet of my Lord. So then we have Shraddha. Otherwise, we say we have Shraddha in the Lord, but are we? Do we really have? So Bhakti also has got Adhikari, the one who has got total Shraddha, Paripurna Shraddha, and pure unconditional love. Yeah,
So Swamiji, Swamiji.
Hmm.
So why was a Ramakrishna Param was a perfect bhakta of Kali?
Hmm.
Why did Totapuri comes to Ramakrishna Paramhans and told him to kill the Kali and have the Advait philosophy? Same thing happened with Meera also. Krishna said that now it is enough that you are carrying my idol. Now leave this idol. So what is the meaning of this thing?
The meaning of this thing is that simple. Ramakrishna Paramahams was stuck with the form. He couldn't go beyond the form. Unlike Tukaram Maharaj, he went beyond the form. But Ramakrishna Paramahams was stuck in the form, and therefore Totapuri Maharaj had to come to pick him up, to lift him up from the limitation of form and realize the self. Now the same thing happened with Namdev Maharaj, also another great saint of Maharashtra. Namdev Maharaj was also stuck in the form of Lord Vithala. And he had the darshan of Lord Vithala when he was barely 8 or 9 years old. And he thought that since he had the darshan of Lord Vithala, he thought no end of himself. And then one day he was from the same period of Jnaneshwar Maharaj. And then once the 4 children, this Jnaneshwar Maharaj, his 3 siblings, the 4 of them were there and Namdev Maharaj was there. And they said that let us have ourselves tested. Who is the most mature? Let us call the Kumbar, the potter. Potter knows which is the matured pot. So then we'll call him and he'll knock our heads and he'll say which is the matured one. And he knocked on the 4 siblings, Jnaneshwar, Nivuttinath and Sopandev and Muktabai, and he said that they are all matured pots. And he knocked on Namdev's head and he said that this is the matured pot. So Namdev was very much depressed with that, disappointed with that, and he went to Lord Vithala and he said that this is what the potter said, that Kumbar said, I'm very much disappointed. Then the Lord told him, what the Kumbar said is right, you are not matured. So how do I gain this maturity? Then he said that your Guru is waiting for you. You go to such a forest and there in the Shiva temple, your Guru is waiting. And then when he went there, he saw an old man lying there with his feet on the shivling. So he said that what anartha this fellow is doing with his feet on the shivling, he is lying down, shameless fellow. So he told that old man, don't you understand what you are doing? Your feet are on the shivlinga. So he said that, look here, I'm too old and too tired and weak. I cannot lift my feet. Can you please lift the feet and shift? If you say that, if you think that it is wrong to put the feet on the shivlinga, you just remove and keep it elsewhere. So when this Namdev Maharaj lifted the feet of that old man and shifted it and kept elsewhere, where the feet was kept, there itself below the feet, the shivlinga came up, and again Namdev Maharaj's, this old man's feet was on the shivlinga alone. Twice he did it, and then he understood that this old man is not an ordinary person. Then he asked him, who are you? He said that I'm Visoba Khesar, your guru. I have been waiting here for a long time. You are coming now. And then he gets the knowledge of non-dual reality from Visoba Khechar, his guru. And after gaining that knowledge, when he returns home, having returned home, there was an evening time and he was inside his room and the door was closed. So somebody knocked on the door. And this Namdev Maharaj from inside, he asked, who is it? So from outside the voice came, I am Vithoba. So Namdev Maharaj said that to that Vithoba, I don't want to meet any Vithoba who can be only outside and not inside simultaneously. So now it was understood that he has gained the non-dual reality, non-dual self.
Thank you very much, Swamiji. Thank you very much. Swamiji, I feel that the exam of this Advaita Makaranda is going to be very tough for us to answer.
So I'm giving you 3 weeks. You want, you can take 4 weeks also.
Even 2-3 months are not sufficient.
It is good. You do Mananam properly, Nididhyasana properly. It is good for your own spiritual evolution. You see,
right, correct.
Yeah, you take 3-4 weeks, it doesn't matter. There is no hurry. It is not a university exam, you see. Yeah, we have our time and we have to, spirituality we cannot force. It is an evolution. It is not a revolution. It cannot be forceful. You have to evolve. So let it take time. It doesn't matter. You don't have to rush through that. So the 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 1 month, whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
No, we'll have 15th January only, but until then, we'll have sleepless nights.
Yeah. So if before 15th Jan, if you are not ready, we can extend it. No problem. Okay. So should we
Okay,
conclude
Swami.
now?
Yeah, yes, Swami.
Okay. I invoke Param Puja Gurudev's grace and blessings on all who are present here today. May he guide us in our worldly life as well as on the spiritual path. May he grant us progress and success in our worldly life as well as on the spiritual path. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah. Hari Om.